Captain Marvel. This is a movie that had a lot of contention surrounding it before it even came out to the box office. This was caused by feelings and opinions of the actress who plays Captain Marvel, and because of that it caused a lot of backlash towards her. There were a lot of mixed feelings on what fans were saying as well. Some loved it, others hated it, and it caused a lot of concern of where the MCU was heading with all the polarization that occurred because of this film. Well, needless to say, I completely avoided watching this movie because of it. That is, until this week. I'm not here to speak on any of these controversial issues. My sole purpose was to watch this film to see if Captain Marvel is truly a hero or not. As I said, I have intentionally avoided the movie for this long, and I felt like I was going against my best judgments to never watch this movie at all. But I realized that this film has a lot of good things in it. But I'm here to just bring light to everyone that Captain Marvel isn't a hero. And here are 8 reasons why she is almost a hero, but just needs some refinement in a few areas. Number 1. Heroes love to learn. Veer's sole purpose for learning throughout the film was for the ability to regain her lost memories, which at first sounds like a positive thing. I know I would want my memories back if I had lost them. However, she isn't as developed or strategic enough to make the necessary decisions, but challenges those who have that knowledge. For example, when we are first introduced to Veers, she recognizes she has powers, and she longs to know how to use them, because she can't quite control them yet. She sees them as an advantage that puts her above the rest of her fellow soldiers. She abuses her powers despite not knowing how they even work. She wants to learn how to harness those powers, but not for being a better soldier or a better protector, but for the sake of having power. Another example, when Veers and her team are sent on a retrieval mission for a fellow soldier, their leader, whom I'm just going to call Young Dumbledore because I can't recall the film ever mentioning his name, tells everyone the plan is to go in with stealth and to try not to run into their enemy, the Skrulls, a shape-shifting humanoid people. Veers sees a group of vagabond people off in the distance and is quick to go towards them. But young Dumbledore tells Veers not to, due to it being an opportunity to be ambushed. Veers assumes that he won't go because he's afraid, when it's all because of tactical things. Another example, throughout the entirety of the film, Veers goes on a personal journey to regain her lost memories, which she didn't even know about until she is abducted, and her mind is probed by the Skrulls and their leader Talos, as they are searching for the whereabouts of a certain doctor, which I'm going to call Dr. Spaceship, because I can't remember her name either. And guess where the Skrull traces Veer's memories back to Dr. Spaceship's location? On the planet, you guessed it, Earth. Veers, then, for the sake of the smallest of chances of regaining her memories, she heads to Earth to plunge it into a war that has been expanding for years throughout the galaxies. That she was literally tasked by young Dumbledore and all of her planet to stop the spread of the Skrull. That is just the opposite of heroic. It is blatant selfishness. Veers literally sentences an entire planet of billions of people to potential death and war for the sake of regaining her memories? Heroes, after learning this truth of having lost memories, would have chosen to remain in the dark of their past if it was to avoid burdening innocent people, or in this case, planets. Number 2. Heroes do not delight in bloodshed. Heroes recognize that what they love and need in order to keep peace and allow prosperity for their people sometimes means holding the line against those that want to take it from them. It isn't that someone possesses power or position and then pushes their thoughts, ideas onto others. It's never about themselves. It's about what is best for everyone. Veers is in need of development in this area. For example, at the beginning of the film, Veers has trouble sleeping. So, naturally she wakes up young Dumbledore so she can spar with him. Training. That's fine. Heroes need to refine their skills for the sake of protecting. But throughout their sparring, young Dumbledore continues to defeat her and instructs her on opportunities to focus on in order to become a better fighter. But each time Veers loses, she makes excuses for it and becomes more and more hostile. The sparring session comes to an immediate end when Veers does a cheap shot at young Dumbledore by shooting him with her superpowers in the chest, which causes him to fly across the room. Another example, when Veers escapes her Skrull captor's ship in a malfunctioning escape pod, she crashes through a Blockbuster video on Earth. She just walks out and pauses for a moment and becomes aware that something is behind her. What could it have been? A vicious animal or a creature on this alien planet she has never been on before? Perhaps it was a child or innocent bystander just going about their daily activities. But Veers doesn't have young Dumbledore with her to hold her back, turns, and quickly uses her powers to shoot at whatever it was. Luckily, it just so happens to be nothing but a cardboard cutout of Arnold Schwarzenegger that she decapitates. Veers is too quick for violence. She doesn't assess the situation as she is in it. She just attacks. Not because it's the right course to take, but simply because she can. Number 3. Heroes find joy in their country's freedom and liberty. I did not see any in Veers' nature to demonstrate these are even on her mind. She has no connection to anything, no place to call home, or to defend. She's only a soldier in a war she doesn't seem to be invested in at all. But to be honest, none of the Kree seem to be very interested in it either. They just follow the orders of a giant AI computer. So their cause, and therefore Veers' cause, is just whatever the big computer tells them to do. Number 4. Heroes find joy in their people's freedom from slavery and bondage. It's this category that Veers begins to behave like a hero. Not every time, but progress is progress. For example, there is a fight scene where the young Nick Fury is being beaten by Talos. Despite Nick's best attempts, Talos is too strong for him, throwing him around the room. Just when all seems to be the end of Nick, Veers comes to the rescue and helps take out Talos and escapes with Nick from the military base. Another example, after crash landing Dr. Spaceship's spaceship, it's revealed to Veers that Dr. Spaceship is in fact an alien from another world, and the ship that Veers flew was the hope of ending the war between the Skrull and Kree. Dr. Spaceship attempts to destroy the spaceship before the young Dumbledore takes it and uses it to finally eliminate the Skrull, but she is shot and dies before she can even do so. Veers finds herself in between an impossible situation, finding out that Earth is not alone, and she's in the middle of a war between two alien species. However, she follows through on Dr. Spaceship's request and shoots the spaceship, which is what gave her the superpowers that she possesses. This was just an accident. She probably had every thought go through her mind that this would be the death of her and young Dumbledore, but for the sake of protecting Dr. Spaceship's creation to bring peace to a war that she didn't even know about. Another example, with Veers' memories fully restored, young Dumbledore and her old team come to kill the hiding Skrull inside of Dr. Spaceship's hidden laboratory that is orbiting Earth. Veers stands her ground and does her very best to protect and defend Talos, his wife and daughter, and his people. She is outnumbered and is knocked unconscious despite her best efforts. When Veers is finally able to unlock her powers, she begins to take out all of the Kree soldiers. This puts young Dumbledore into a panic and contacts the evil bad dude from Guardians of the Galaxy to come and exterminate Earth. When the fleet arrives, Veers becomes unleashed and uses her powers to take on an entire fleet in space. She causes such destruction that it astounds the evil bad dude, and they are forced to retreat. At the conclusion of the film, Veers offers Talos her abilities in order to find a new planet for his people, to continue on what Dr. Spaceship had been trying to do the entire time while hidden on Earth. Number 5. Heroes are full of gratitude to their God for their privileges and blessings. Not once were these characteristics demonstrated. Talos was indeed grateful for Veers and Nick's help in reuniting him with his wife and daughter, but Veers never recognizes the privileges and gifts that she has, or rather, she recognizes her powers, but aims to use them for selfish reasons. She has really nothing to defend or fight for. She truly only follows the lead and intentions of Dr. Spaceship. This doesn't make her a hero or a leader, but a follower, and it's never out of recognizing that help is needed and then making the hard sacrifices that are made to make lives better for everyone. It's only Dr. Spaceship's efforts that I would say are heroic, because at least she recognized the sanctity of freedom from oppression and war was something to be grateful for as she worked in hiding on Earth to find a solution to end the war between the Skrull and Kree. Number 6. Heroes work extremely hard for the welfare and safety of their people. Veers really fails in this category. I say this is the category that is really holding her back from being a true hero. She runs into problems, yes, or she creates them, and either unintentionally or intentionally makes things worse for everyone but herself. For example, she fights a Skrull outside of the blockbuster that she crashed into and ends up chasing it onto a train. She witnesses it getting onto the train, but loses it for a few minutes. Skrull can shapeshift, and there's never shown throughout the film if the Kree have a technology or way to tell who is a Skrull and who is not. Talos later says in the film, Skrull can turn into anything, but they need to see it first. Which makes the following scene just so terrible. When Veers gets into the train and begins to walk among the passengers, she just stops in front of an elderly woman who smiles at her. This scene would have worked had it shown that Veers sees the same elderly woman moments before facing this one, then having to struggle between who is the real old woman and who is the Skrull. But instead, Veers just punches her. No caution was taken to ensure that this was in fact the missing Skrull. Just straight to fighting. This isn't heroic. The real heroes of this scene are the passengers who try to stop Veers on her unacceptable behavior. Another example, Veers reunites with her best friend, who I cannot recall her name either, so I just called her the wonderful teacher from Matilda the Musical. She's emotional to see Veers because she knew that Veers hadn't died in this plane crash with Dr. Spaceship, as the USA government told her. Veers doesn't remember wonderful teacher from Matilda the Musical at all, but nonetheless they reconnect their bond despite not remembering her. There is a ring at the door, and it turns out to be wonderful teacher from Matilda the Musical's neighbor. Veers instantly believes that it is Talos and starts acting aggressive towards him, even shocking him with her powers because of her instant distrust of him. Wonderful teacher from Matilda the Musical is able to talk her neighbor into stopping by another time, and at the same time manages to keep Veers at bay and closes the door. When they turn around, Talos is right behind them, and Veers instantly begins to charge her hands in preparation for a fight. It is Talos who has to talk sense to Veers, reminding her that they are standing in wonderful teacher from Matilda the Musical's home, and it'd be a real devastation to her and her daughter should Veers use her powers to fight off Talos. Another example that I would say is heroic is Veers recalls her memory from the flight with Dr. Spaceship. In the middle of the flight test, a UFO comes from space and proceeds to shoot at the ship with both Veers and Dr. Spaceship. Veers does her absolute best to keep her calm and proceeds to use her amazing flying skills to keep Dr. Spaceship safe. However, despite these efforts, the ship is still shot and Veers is forced to crash land in a forest. This final example, however, is probably the one that made me the most frustrated with Veers. Veers talks about going to find the hidden laboratory of Dr. Spaceship that is somewhere up in space. Wonderful teacher from Matilda, the musical, is asked by Veers to accompany her, since they used to fly together. However, wonderful teacher from Matilda the musical declines because she has a daughter and she shouldn't be putting her life in danger, which I completely agree. She has no idea who the Kree are, or what kind of weaponry, what kind of armor, what kind of technology they have. She's never been in combat with aliens. She would be put up against things she has had no training or even any imagination of what she could be up against. And again, none of this is even her fight. Veers literally brought an entire war to the planet Earth for selfish reasons of bringing back her memories, and then begins to bring more innocent people into this mix for the sole agenda of finding those memories. But then, wonderful teacher from Matilda the musical changes her mind, only because her daughter said she should be aware what kind of example a mother is setting. If Veers was truly a hero, she would have set the record straight to this daughter, that her mother truly was setting the best example, that she was staying to protect her. This is admirable, to put her child's needs before her own, and that would mean Veers would go alone, because in fact, that was what she should be doing. Sure, she once lived on Earth, but she doesn't anymore, and she's involved in things that Earth has no part in. So she should leave and let Earth be at peace from the bloodshed of other galaxies. Number 7. Heroes have a firm faith in Christ. Christ is not in this film, obviously, but I would say the closest Christ-like character would be Dr. Spaceship. It is her work that was bringing hope to Talos and his people. It was their whole purpose in finding Veers, so they could locate Dr. Spaceship, and use the spaceship to carry them away to another planet safe from the Kree rule. Dr. Spaceship sacrifices herself in order to keep her people safe. It was just lucky circumstances that when Veers shoots the spacecraft, that it gives her the power she gains. I would say Veers throughout the film is shown to respect and believe in the work that Dr. Spaceship is working on, however not truly understanding that the work was meant for life beyond Earth. So when the time comes and Veers has to make a choice, she stands up and continues on the work of Dr. Spaceship, giving up the life she had as a soldier of the Kree. She could see the good and the full purpose for Dr. Spaceship's work, and what her sacrifice meant for countless Skrull throughout the universe. True heroes aspire to be better, to constantly improve and make things better for their people, and thus they are constantly seeking guidance and direction. This comes from divine power, not mental power or a positive attitude about oneself. It is literally seeking through prayer and personal revelation on what is necessary to do, to protect their people, their country, and religions. Veers is a hero in this category, continuing on the work as a disciple of Marvel. And the final one, heroes swear an oath to defend their people, country, and religion, even till death. At the conclusion of the film, Veers flies off with Talos and the other Skrull refugees to find them a new planet to live. She never makes an actual oath, like the hand on the Bible, but she was willing to sacrifice herself for Dr. Spaceship's work to be kept out of enemy hands. She went up against young Dumbledore and the Kree, despite being outnumbered to protect the Skrull refugees. Once she recognizes the whole purpose of Dr. Spaceship's work and intentions were to end all wars, she went forward to make sure that work would truly come to pass. She is heroic in this regard. So there you have it. Captain Marvel is kind of a mixed bag. She is quick to violence and puts people's lives in danger instead of protecting them. However, at the same time is willing to put herself in harm's way for the protection of others. If the trajectory were to continue with her continuing on the work of Dr. Spaceship, Veers would truly become a hero. But with just this film, she needs some work on being more methodical and strategic in how she would resolve conflicts. That's all I've got. So what do you think? Now go be a hero and make someone's burden lighter today. Goodbye!